Welcome to the week ahead from the Financial Times in London. Here are some of the big stories we'll be watching in the coming days. U.S. President Donald Trump travels to Europe for his first foreign trip since taking office. We'll find out if the eurozone's recovery is taking hold. And Tiffany, the U.S. jewelry maker, reports its first quarter results. We'll start in the U.S. as Donald Trump prepares for his first foreign trip as president. On Thursday, he'll attend a summit of NATO leaders in Brussels to mark the opening of its new headquarters. He'll also meet with Donald Tusk, the president of the European Council, and Jean-Claude Juncker, the head of the EU Commission. The trip comes as the president is engulfed in controversy in Washington around an investigation into his campaign's links with Russia and the president's firing of James Comey as head of the FBI. Last week, the president denied that he had urged Mr. Comey to stop a probe into Michael Flynn, his first national security advisor. Mr. Comey's dismissal has prompted claims that Mr. Trump was obstructing justice. So, the president will be looking to leave all this behind him when he travels to Europe. Here's our chief foreign affairs commentator, Gideon Rachman, on what to expect from the president's trip.
This is a very significant visit. It's Trump's first visit to Europe, and it also comes after he's expressed extreme kind of ambivalence towards two crucial transatlantic institutions. The first is NATO, which at times he has said is obsolete. He's now withdrawn those comments, but there is still big question marks about his fundamental commitment to the transatlantic military alliance, particularly because of the swirling scandal around his relations with Russia and what's going on there. And he's also been at times openly critical of the European Union. He's been somebody who's been prepared to cultivate ties with anti-EU forces within Europe, almost endorsing Marine Le Pen, close to Nigel Farage. So there's a lot of suspicion of him in Brussels at the EU headquarters. So it'll be very important to see whether he can actually establish a working relationship as previous US presidents have.
There'll be plenty for the president to discuss with NATO and EU leaders, and the gathering also marks the arrival on the global stage of Emmanuel Macron, the new French president. Now, staying in Europe, we'll be watching whether the eurozone's economic recovery can maintain its momentum since the start of the year. A weak euro, cheaper oil, and easy credit conditions are likely to keep growth strong for the rest of this year. But we'll have more news on how the single currency area's economy is performing when the closely watched Purchasing Managers' Indices are released this week. Claire Jones, our Frankfurt bureau chief, has more on what the German PMI figures are likely to show.
The German economy has looked really strong this year. There was great growth in the first quarter, and what we're going to see this week is evidence of whether that growth has continued into the second quarter of this year. We're going to see the release of the Purchasing Managers' Index, which is a very closely watched measure of activity. It's likely to remain strong, and growth in general in Germany is likely to remain pretty good too for the rest of this year, which is very good news for Chancellor Angela Merkel, who's up for re-election in September. The stronger the economy, the better her already very high chances of re-election are.
While the figures will be closely watched in Germany, there will also be separate readings for France, which is the region's second largest economy. And finally, Tiffany, the revered U.S. jewelry brand, will be reporting its first quarter results this week. It has suffered falling sales amid an industry-wide meltdown in the U.S. in the past year. Tiffany reported flat like-for-like sales during the fourth quarter of 2016, making it the first time in 5 quarters that the closely watched metric didn't fall. Forecasts are showing a return to revenue and profit growth this year. Our reporter Anna Nicolau has more on what to expect from the results.
Tiffany's had a particularly tough time because more than half of their sales are done outside of the U.S., and with a stronger U.S. dollar, their revenues have fallen quite a lot in the past 7 or 8 quarters. Tiffany's also been hurt because their flagship store is located next to the Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue in New York, so foot traffic has been down there because of a lot of security measures, and they do about 10% of their sales in that one store. That being said, investors seem to be more bullish on the stock, and they are currently they're replacing their chief executive who left in February. So it seems like analysts are looking for at least some kind of stabilization for the company in the coming months.
Investors have welcomed Tiffany's attempts at a turnaround, and the stock has gained more than 15% this year. And that's what the week ahead looks like from the Financial Times in London. Goodbye.